Warning. The following video contains minor visual and plot spoilers for Alan Wake 1, Control, and Alan Wake 2. While I won't spoil any major events, I implore you to play these games if you haven't. With that out of the way, please enjoy the video. If I asked you what your favorite stories in the video game medium are, how would you answer? Maybe you're a fan of Naughty Dog's Last of Us series. Perhaps you love Danganronpa's Murder Mystery. You might like something more quaint and quiet like Gone Home. It could be Santa Monica's God of War reboot. It might be a fighting game story, a character-driven narrative like Persona, a crime drama like Yakuza, an espionage-focused narrative like Metal Gear Solid, or something maybe a bit more esoteric like Elden Ring. Allow me to ask another question. What about these games, or whatever comes to mind, stood out amongst its contemporaries? Was it the graphics, the gorgeous art style, the setting, the narrative, or was it something else entirely? Regardless of what that specific element was, it was communicated through effective storytelling. Moments like these could be character reveals, betrayals, deaths, an ending, or something that just resonates with you. And after experiencing something that moves you, the roles become reversed if you'd like to share this experience with others. What I'm trying to say here is that storytelling is ubiquitous. It's everywhere and something that we'll have to do at some point in our lives. These stories can range from beating a boss in a game that we're stuck on to recalling events at a eulogy. It will happen. However, the story I'd like to tell today is how Remedy has become my favorite storyteller in gaming. Last fall, I remember hearing about Alan Wake 2, and I had several friends that were excited about it. Seeing the trailer at the Game Awards live and commercials throughout the year just piqued my interest, so I bought the original Alan Wake and fell in love with it while eagerly awaiting the sequel. After the sequel was released, I bought it, completed it, and fell in love with Remedy's stories. Up to this point, I thought Remedy was one of those narrative-focused studios until I played Control for this video. Control might have been my favorite game I played last year, so let me know if you're interested in a video on Control. Getting back on topic, while I thought the gameplay from Alan Wake 1 and 2 were mostly serviceable, Remedy's method of storytelling is what really grabbed me here. The first thing that will immediately stand out with their games are their visuals and atmosphere. Remedy's games have a more realistic art style. This art direction, in parallel with the supernatural elements found in the atmosphere and great graphics, combine to create this unique fusion of reality and fiction with every shot. Each scene feels surreal as Remedy walks this tightrope between reality and fiction. The best way to describe this supernatural realistic atmosphere is immersive and somehow relatable. The issue with this definition is that it's an oxymoron to call something supernaturally real. These two things cannot logically exist, yet Remedy has found this balance between fiction and non-fiction that somehow just feels real. In my opinion, Remedy accomplishes this through leveraging real actors, CGI, and in-engine cutscenes to create this fictitious reality where things somehow feel real while clearly being fiction. Another tool Remedy uses to capture their unusual atmosphere is with their deliberate use of cinematography. So, let's get something out of the way here. I am not a student of film. I haven't studied cinematography, lighting, the technicalities of which angle to use in specific use cases, and all that comes with discussing cinematography. Nevertheless, I have seen enough movies and have played enough games to realize when I'm experiencing an artist's craft. Remedy's use of lighting and camera angles exhibit a clear love for film. There are numerous moments in Control's opening hours where several supporting cast members are introduced in a dark room with minimal light on them. The minimal lighting paints these people as ominous characters in a dark setting, and assuming we're experiencing this through Jessie's lens, it beautifully captures Jessie's intrinsic skepticism she has towards the members of the Bureau. Remedy uses a handful of shots to further introduce characters, recontextualizes them through Jessie's perspective, and provides Jessie with another layer of development simply through the use of camera angles and lighting alone. I would applaud Remedy if they did this once, but this is their standard. Throughout the games I've completed for this video, they've always had incredible visual storytelling accompanied with their superb writing. They have moments inducing terror, claustrophobia, romance, retribution, and everything in between. The cinematography found throughout their games creates a bridge between film and video games, which provides this unique cinematic tone to their projects while still feeling like a video game. This balance is clearly difficult to walk, but I genuinely believe Remedy has found this, especially when compared to its contemporaries. On the topic of film, another recurring technique found across their games are title cards and sometimes outros with songs. Alan Wake is literally broken up into episodes. Certain areas have title cards and control, and Alan Wake 2 has chapter outros with a wide range of music thematically fitting the narrative. While it is a very minor touch, it really drives home that you're engaging in a cinematic experience that you're directly influencing. And while experiencing media like this isn't too crazy, sure, executing this successfully in a video game is a remarkably challenging achievement. Anyways, I briefly alluded to Remedy's incredible writing earlier, so let's dive into it and why I believe their exposition, foreshadowing, and their character monologues are some of the best in the industry. In the first chapter of Alan Wake, The Dark Place, Alan, Alice, the setting of Bright Falls, the main antagonist, character motivations, and mystery are seamlessly introduced to the player. The game doesn't drag out these scenes either, as Remedy's exquisite exposition and tight pacing are on full display here. They navigate this tight balance with how intentional they are with delivering information to the player while not relying on lore dumps or needlessly long introductions to establish its engaging world, mystery, and hook, which some of my favorite games struggle with. This masterful storytelling extends to Alan Wake's incredible use of foreshadowing found in the opening minute.
Stephen King once wrote that nightmares exist outside of logic, and there's little fun to be had in explanations. They're antithetical to the poetry of fear. In a horror story, the victim keeps asking why, but there can be no explanation, and there shouldn't be one. The unanswered mystery is what stays with us the longest, and it's what we'll remember in the end.
Alan opens with a Stephen King quote explaining why nightmares are permitted to abstain from logic. He then says unanswered mysteries are what stay with us the longest and keeps viewers engaged, while claiming everything doesn't need to be explained. This opening not only foreshadows the events of the entire game, but also serves as a microcosm of what makes Remedy's storytelling so excellent. Similar to the graphics and atmosphere discussion earlier, Remedy, again, navigates a tight balance with how they distill their story to players. In my opinion, their success can be attributed to 3 reasons. Reason 1, they clearly establish the setting, characters, mystery, and ensuing drama. Reason 2, Remedy seldom relies on information dumps to educate their audience. And reason 3, their pacing is airtight. They carefully choose how to share information and respect their audience by avoiding these roundtable discussions where characters just express their opinions. In the rare moments you are actually provided with a plot summary, it feels rewarding because of how scarce these moments actually are. These moments ensure that players understand the overarching narrative while ensuring that we're still shrouded in mystery. However, an area Remedy is much more cavalier with is their frequent use of inner monologues between Alan, Jesse, and Saga through their respective games. Before we get into it, I'd like to remind everyone that if you're enjoying the video, leaving a like and a subscription would go a far way in helping the channel grow. If you really enjoy my content and would like to further support my creative endeavors here, please consider becoming a channel member where you'll receive early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of my videos, and access to my outlines, scripts, and other exclusive perks we have in the Discord server. Thanks for your support and back to the video. Alan articulates his experience like an author writing a book. His internal monologue highlights how focused he is on his career as an author and how dire his writer's block actually is for his overall career and well-being. Yet, although he's experiencing these supernatural events, he still processes everything through the lens of an author. Additionally, some of the inner dialogue can also feel like he's breaking the fourth wall by speaking directly to the player, creating an interesting meta-narrative which we will be revisiting shortly. Saga, conversely, is a bit more direct with her inner monologue. She isn't a broken character struggling with a writing career or an existential existence, mostly. Instead, she's a much more grounded character thrusted into Alan Wake 2's drama. She certainly has a perspective on Bright Falls sheriffs, the Federal Bureau of Control, Alan's story, Odin and Tor, and Alex Casey. However, my favorite use of Remedy's inner monologue has to be with Control's Jesse Faden. Jesse is a confused character desperately looking for answers in her pursuit of the Federal Bureau of Control. She has a serious and playful personality with something trapped inside of her. Jesse will directly communicate with this entity, creating some clever fourth wall breaks. There are moments in the game where it feels like she's speaking directly to the player, which transforms the entity inside of her into an analog for the player. Understanding this transforms the entity into a clever narrative metaphor for player control while sustaining a little narrative dissonance with Jesse's actions. And eventually, you may realize that Remedy is using this to create another meta-narrative experience. This meta-narrative structure is commonly employed by Remedy to make us, the players, feel like actors in their system, providing us with the illusion of control. These games have preordained events that must transpire to progress the story, sure, But acknowledging the player's presence through fourth wall breaks, or even metaphorically putting us inside of the main character, is nothing short of brilliant, and the illusion of our control comes from these preordained events. The audience must put events into motion like in every game, but it feels like we have agency over actions that we clearly don't. I think Remedy achieves this through their fourth wall breaks and giving us control of Jesse through this entity. This, subtly, repurposes the player into an actor for their narratives, which is also kind of terrifying. On the topic of talented actors, I think it's time for us to dive into Remedy's use of live action cutscenes. If you're familiar with or haven't played one of Remedy's games, here's one of my favorite examples of this.
You can't let this happen. 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 You stopped it. You. Oh, thank you. That was horror.
Remedy as a studio is known for many things, but nothing quite stands out like their use of live action cutscenes in a video game. They leverage these cutscenes to provide another layer to their surreal atmosphere. The distinct blend of in-engine, CGI, and live-action cutscenes with supernatural elements induce this sublime ethereal experience I've only experienced in their games. Furthermore, the graphics, cutscenes, and overall cinematography really drive home this feeling of absurdity, making it difficult to bifurcate reality from fiction at times. These cutscenes, the use of cinematography, and the overall presentation articulate this concept of fictitious reality Remedy has established. Moments like these throughout their games provide the studio with their own distinct voice and storytelling method that's challenging to find anywhere else. Their composition of reality juxtaposed with these supernatural elements forms their otherworldly narrative tone as well. It's common knowledge that Alan Wake was inspired by Twin Peaks. On second thought, let's run that back. It's common knowledge that Alan Wake is heavily inspired by Twin Peaks. From characters to the setting, elements and overall tone are largely preserved from its inspiration. If you've seen the show or played either of the games, you'll know that they both have some absurd characters and some funny interactions to go along with them. The strangeness of the world is one thing, but everyone just going along with things is also wild. Alan's first time walking into the Odier Diner speaks for itself. Rose is introduced as an Alan Wake superfan, the Anderson brothers are just happy to be alive, and then this happens.
Hello? Mr. Stuckey?
Carl couldn't make it. Unfortunately, he was taken ill. But I have the key for you and instructions on how to get to the lake.
Okay.
I wish you a good stay in my cabin. I'll come by later to check how you've settled in. And to meet your wife. I insist.
Thanks.
I don't think this scene needs any more context, so let's quickly go over the obvious. You wander into a dark hallway with a lady telling you to be careful in the dark. Alan knocks on a door, a lady in funeral attire oddly hands you the keys to the lodge, and Alan takes them apprehensively before being congratulated with, and I quote, "You got lucky this time, young man. You can hurt yourself in the dark." Moments like these are absurd, funny, and even somehow endearing. They feel intentionally amateur, providing everything with this strange charm that I just adore. And yes, this strange charm even translates into numerous musical montages or just straight up a musical with lyrics that are tied to the overarching narrative. I don't know if I can articulate how much I love Remedy for just being Remedy. Their overall tone feels like capturing lightning in a bottle. Many artists endeavor to capture this energy again, but Remedy somehow always taps into this creative magic, and I love them for it. Another aspect of their games that I adore is the length of their projects. Remedy's games, by comparison to their contemporaries, are quite short. Many games justify their lengths by adding formulaic side quests, fetch quests, and empty open worlds. Remedy rejects this by providing these tight narrative experiences that don't overstay their welcomes, while always leaving you on the edge of your seat by the time the credits roll. Their commitment to telling a compact story that isn't bloated by the pitfalls most modern studios fall into should be revered in today's industry. This is one of the reasons why I, personally, gravitate towards smaller, tighter games like Resident Evil, A Plague Tale: Innocence, or Metal Gear Solid. Now, to be clear, I don't dislike longer games, and my most popular videos on this channel should prove this. I love longer games as well, but they really need to capture the excitement of that journey to preserve the audience's attention throughout its lengthy runtime. So, while I've discussed Remedy's unique storytelling elements throughout this entire video, someone will probably be thinking to themselves, this game has a similar atmosphere, this game has better cinematography, or this game has great exposition as well. And my rebuttal to these thoughts is a simple idiom. You're missing the forest for the trees. Of course, other developers or filmmakers may utilize one or a few of these elements with their storytelling, but Remedy's exceptionally unique tone is the byproduct of harmonizing everything we've discussed today. To be more direct, you know you're playing a Remedy game when you're playing a Remedy game. Their voice can be felt through their characters, the absurd yet charming writing, their creative environments, otherworldly visuals, remarkable cinematography, and their well-crafted narratives. The distinct tone can largely be attributed to, please excuse me while I butcher these Finnish names, Petri Javiletto, Mikhail Kashurinen, Kyle Rowley, and of course Sam Lake. Petri served as the executive producer on the original Max Payne, is one of Remedy's co-founders, and served as one of the creative directors on Max Payne and Alan Wake. Being a co-founder and senior leader allowed him to create the stories he had always envisioned. Mikhail was the creative director for Quantum Break and Control. There are several interviews online of him describing his deep understanding of Remedy's unique narrative elements and really wanted to capture the essence of their games, which, in my opinion, he did an excellent job with. Kyle, who was younger than Petri and Mikhail, grew up playing a lot of games, but was particularly drawn towards the original Max Payne. He knew from a young age that he wanted to work in the gaming industry. After working with Remedy on Quantum Break and CD Projekt Red with Cyberpunk 2077, he returned to Remedy as a co-creative director on Alan Wake 2 with Sam Lake. Although I've recently become a fan of Remedy's games, Sam Lake's name, in my opinion, belongs up there as one of the best creative minds in the industry. His inventive narratives, world building, and unique approach to storytelling is a breath of fresh air in a creative industry that can feel dangerously homogenous at times. As a result, he's one of the most beloved and respected figures in the industry. And what does he do after winning Best Narrative at the Game Awards in 2023?
I share this with the whole narrative team, the writers, Clay, Tyler, Sinikka, narrative designers who made the story into gameplay, Simone, Molly, the whole narrative team, directors working with actors, Anssi, Hannah, Rosie, Holly, all the wonderful actors here tonight, some of them, Melanie, Ilkka, Matt and David, but the whole cast, wonderful actors, and the song makers who made custom music, custom songs to extend the story. Here tonight later, Poets of the Flawless, Old Gods of Asgard, Poe, This Road, every song maker coming through Fright Music for our chapter songs. Thank you.
Sam gets up there for a minute and a half and literally shouts out the narrative, production, and music teams that brought his vision to life. They always say to never meet your heroes, but it seems genuinely impossible to hate this man. His humility and understanding that he couldn't have done this by himself says more about Sam's character than any words I could write. When I was conceptualizing this video before writing the outline, I wanted to challenge myself. I've made a few game analysis discussing stories, philosophies, mechanics, development cycles, and even the broader industry, but I've never really sat down to think about what makes a good story great. I've never researched narrative structure, exposition, dialogue, and how developers and filmmakers communicate information to us. And honestly, who knows how this video will come out, but I do know something. Of all the games I've played, TV shows I've seen, movies I've watched, and albums I've listened to throughout my life, it's very rare for something to move me the way that Remedy has. Their projects have challenged my conventional thinking of what games could be. They've influenced me to not only create this video, but strive to be a better artist in hopes that one day, something I write or produce will move someone the way that I've been. And you know what? Who knows? Maybe the next Hideo Kojima, Hidetaka Miyazaki, Ken Levine, Christopher Nolan, or even Sam Lake may have just watched this video. All right, time for the outro. So first and foremost, thank you so much for anybody that's made it to the end. I know that this was something a little bit different, but just wanted to, flex the creative side, do something a little bit more challenging for me. Cause like I said in the conclusion, I've never really thought about what makes a great story great, right? So I just wanted to make a quick video on a studio that has caught my attention since last year. And I didn't think I could make like a full video about like one of their games in particular, unless I dive into the story. But yeah, hopefully this, gets somebody interested in trying a Remedy game, because they really are this like cerebral experience that I think a lot of people should try. But most importantly, shout out to my channel members for making this content possible. Love you guys. Thank you so much. But yeah, I've just been wanting to talk about Remedy now for a little bit, so I'm happy that I finally dedicated a video to them, and hopefully you guys enjoyed. Like, these games are very special and I really do want more people to play them. So a couple of questions for anybody that's made it to the end. What was your first Remedy game? What's your favorite Remedy game? Are there any other like large studios that make these type of games or have a similar type of energy to their games? Like, I'd just love to keep that conversation going in the comments. As always, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Liking, subscribing, you know, all that YouTube stuff really helps push the video out there so more people can see it. Lastly, be sure to follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, keep an eye on the community tab and all that for updates, and consider following me on Twitch where I catch all this footage live. With that out of the way, hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day, evening, morning, night. I'll check in with y'all later.